gonna start, so we're recording. But I'm gonna bring this up because this is where we're gonna crack. We're gonna crack it together, Greg.
I like it.
That's what we're doing. You ready?
Always.
3, 2, 1. Oh, that was nice. All right, so I wanted to show you this, dude. Like, this is. So I told you my morning coming over here, like no power in my house.
You're right.
So I feel like back when I was young, and I'm like, am I gonna be able to pay my freaking bill? And that's where the money. That's why I have no. But it's all of Sacramento's out. But I want to show you this photo here. Look at this. This is my house this morning. Look at it.
That's your fence isn't supposed to be in your driveway.
No, it's not supposed to be in your
driveway. It's supposed to be standing next to the driveway.
Exactly. So it's definitely down. We have a fence guy over there, and really helpful. And we had my wife and I both had to go get blood tested this morning, and so we're like, well, we don't have power, so we're like, we don't really want to leave our house, unattended or whatever. And then we're like, we have to manually do our garage because that power's out. And we're like, our fence is in the driveway. Can we even get out? And then on the other side of our house, the fence is broken as well from the wind.
Yeah.
And then we're like trying to get we're looking through our paperwork. We're like, what are we covered by wind? Like, what's going on here? So that's our morning. So I'm going to drink this energy drink.
Yeah. So I'm with you. I got up at 2:45 in the morning like I normally do. And this is after I came home to what looked to be a murder scene. Turns out my baby just cut his finger. It's still bleeding at daycare, so we have to go pick him up. We have to figure out how to put alcohol-based liquid Band-Aid on a baby. That's going to be awesome. Yeah. Our fence is blown over also, front and back. And at a house we rent out to tenants, they're telling me that the garage is basically blown off the tracks, and I've already had to fix that thing 3 times.
Jesus.
So I'm with you, bro.
Hey, but I told myself, I said, hey, listen, we're still going to do the podcast.
We're doing it.
We're still doing the podcast.
Dude, I left the gym, I locked the door, and I'm like, we're doing it.
We're doing it, all right? So, hey, guys, everybody, welcome. Welcome to the podcast, and we're going to get started. You ready?
Let's do it. I'm always ready.
All right. Do the things that interest you and do them with all your heart. Don't be concerned about whether people are watching you or criticizing you. The chances are that they aren't paying attention to you anyway. It's your attention to yourself that is so solidifying. But you have to disregard yourself as completely as possible. If you fail the first time, then you'll just have to try harder the second time. After all, there's no real reason why you should fail. Just stop thinking about yourself. Eleanor Roosevelt.
Ooh.
All right.
Didn't see that one coming from Eleanor.
I know, right?
Eleanor.
And we got powerful women in this country, Greg. I don't know if you heard, man.
Yeah.
But that's how we're starting, dude. What do you think?
Dude, my whole life is built around hard work. And I fully believe that actual grit, not like internet grit, actual grit will get you through anything or achieve anything. And that's what that's saying. It's saying screw everyone else, screw everyone that says, you can't do it. You tell them to kick rocks, you keep moving forward, and you don't get discouraged when you fail. Period, the end.
I think this is the reason I wanted to kind of, I'm looking for quotes. I'm thinking, well, how do we want to start this podcast, right? And I'm thinking we want an opportunity to talk about who we are and what are we doing, but also there's this very real essence of being in business of you're judgmental on yourself. You judge yourself towards others because it's you want to aspire to something or whatever it may be. But also in order to in my opinion, be successful at business, you also have to be the type of person that can do that, but also say, I'm just going to do it. Right. And which is and I think that's what resonates with this quote is that's what you have, right? That's essentially what she's saying.
Absolutely. And I'm gonna go right in. This is gonna open a can of worms.
Let's do it.
Because I have a new favorite quote that lines up just with what we're saying. So my new favorite quote is from Tom Bilyeu, the owner of Quest Nutrition. Okay. Dude's a billionaire, if no one knew. And
Quest, they make those delicious bars, right?
Yeah, everyone knows.
Yeah,
what
they're
bars
so
are.
good.
They're so good.
They are. And
Try the peanut butter cups.
well, the funny thing about Quest, I don't know if you like experienced this, but in 2004 or 5, if you ate protein bars, if you were like a strict dieter, right? Like I did bodybuilding and you ate protein bars, like they were good because you weren't eating anything, but they also really sucked.
Yeah, they were chalky.
They were chalky, man. They were
Yeah.
disgusting. And now, like Quest, you're like, dude, what am I having? Cupcakes right now?
Totally.
Like, so delicious. Anyway, sorry, I digress.
All good. So Quest is delicious. Shout out.
Yeah.
His comment in one of his little motivational speeches was, work so hard that you get so good, you're someone else's excuse not to try.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? Like, and people really have to take that one in sometimes. But the reason I kind of relate to that quote with what we're saying now is that's my internal mentality. So in my mind, when I wake up in the morning, I'm trying to crush people, like into the ground. I want to win so bad that they don't even want to play anymore. But then I go to the gym and I'm all motivation. I'm friendly. I want everyone to win. But in my head, I'm like, I'm going to crush you, motherfucker.
Right.
That's like, and that's that little back and forth. So maybe your internal is, hey, I want to be like that person.
Right.
I want to achieve this similar to that guy. Well, realistically, I want to get there and then I want to beat him into the ground, but...
Right. Well, I'll say, if you guys don't know, Greg is the owner and operator of Map Fitness Training. Map Training?
Map Training.
Fitness?
There's actually a Map
Yeah, why do
Fitness,
I
too.
always fuck that up? Because is there a Map Fitness out here?
There is.
There is, yeah. One time you're like, no, it's not Map Fitness. That's with this other dude. That's right, Map
Yeah.
Training. I should know that because I come
know
every
that.
day. I'm like, Map Training, check him out. No, but, he's the owner-operator, and so I think maybe we can get into that the changing dynamics of the fitness industry later, but you're right, it is kind of like that. And I think we both, like, you see me, right? So this is such a funny divergence from what we're talking about, but essentially Greg puts up these like challenges at his gym, right? And I'm trying to get back into shape, and so something happened with one of his clients and he needed to do, like, I guess as a punishment or whatever, had to do 60 sled pushes.
Yeah.
And we're in similar fields, me and this guy that had to do it, but we are not. He is like much more successful in the field that we do. He's been in it like a very long time, successful, and I'm just getting into it, right? And so I was like, this is how competitive I am, and this is what you're saying, right? This like and I think we've talked about this like component of wanting to be successful. It levels, right? And it's like I want to do good at this. And then it's like, well, I want to be like maybe the best in, let's say, my school or the best in my office. And then it goes to like, I don't want to be the best anymore. I literally want to work so hard. And this is how I've been in business for the last 10 years. I want to work so hard that when somebody comes in behind me, there's no way they could do it. And that's how I've left every single business I've ever been with.
Yeah.
And so it reminds me of this, like, this challenge. And I essentially went in and I was like, 60, I could do that. Granted, I'm in horrible shape. And I went and I think over like a 3-day period, I did
140.
120, 140 or something like that. But like, that was the thing. And then I was talking to my wife and we're looking, I added him on Instagram and he's getting on a private jet going to a football game across the country during COVID. And I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Enjoy your sled pushes,
I'm pretty
asshole.
sure he beat me. I think I'm competing against nobody right now. But I mean, that is, I think, when we talk about being successful in anything, not just business, but like, if you want to be the best spelling bee champion or whatever, there's this component of not wanting to just be good, but like be so much better than other people, right?
Yeah. So there's a concept you kind of just touched on. So outside of the gym, for people who don't know, right? I've played professional paintball for like 16 years, more of my life than not.
It's a lot of your life.
It's a lot of my life. So I go to all these clinics and I teach kids how to play. Well, I get to these clinics in all these like Hobunk areas, different states, whatever, right? And there's always the same guy. There's the dude that's been doing it for a couple of years, and he's the big fish in the little pond. Mm-hmm. He's the best dude at his field or in his region or whatever. And then people like me roll in, and we make him look like he's an idiot because he's the big fish in the little pond. He thinks he's so good, he's lost the effort. Mm-hmm. So what you're saying about like the levels of business, you have to be willing to play at each level.
Right.
Right? And then, so if you can win at your regional or at your small business, okay, maybe you can get a commercial business, right? Maybe you can rent a place. Then you have to try to win there. Because if you just go from zero and you're like, oh, I want to be like this successful dude getting on jets, bro, you're going to get worked out.
Yeah, well, and that's, here's the thing. Like, I think about that too. Like, that's a great example, right? Because I had this first off, I think there's a huge level of arrogance that goes into wanting to be a business owner, and you have to have it to be successful. But also, it's a very humbling experience because, like, I used to think the fact that, like, I was my senior class president was a big deal. And it was when I was senior class president in my hometown and I lived in foster care. Like, it was a big achievement, right? But then I realized that there's a senior class president in every school, every year, in every state. And I had the same realization about, like, wrestling, right? I thought, oh, cool, you're a state champion. I thought, oh, well, there's 50 state champions, right? Every year this happens. And it's this weird thing where it's like, you have to be realistic because you have to realize that, like, you can only compete in your own little sphere, and then you try to grow from that. Like, for me to try to, let's say with this guy, your client, to be like, I'm going to beat that guy this year in this industry would be unrealistic.
Sure.
And probably demoralizing, right?
Sure.
I would imagine, right? But to say, like, this guy was able to, and I think the way that I do it, I don't know if this is you, but the way that I do it is I say, what did this person do his first year?
Right.
I did that in my last job. I said, what did the person that was and the guy that did my job before me killed it, like, beloved. When I got there, they were like, you got big shoes to fill. That was like the thing I heard from everyone. You got big shoes. And I'm like, yeah, I think I better be all right. Yeah. But he did a great job, right? But I smashed it. I destroyed it, right? So I did it that way. I didn't say, well, I want to do as good as he did his last year. I want to see what can I do year to year, right?
And as you go through these things, you got me thinking about the barriers of entry, right? These levels that we talk about and kind of relating it back towards the quote is some of the reasons we end up at the big fish in the little pond, or sometimes we end up, trying to play at too high a level out of our lane, is because we're worried about the view of others on us, right? If every time I stepped on the field I was worried about what the crowd thought, bro, I'd never play.
Right.
But I could give two shits what the crowd thinks. I'm here to shoot people, Or in business, like, I'm here to win in my world. Like, I don't care what you're doing at this point. And there's like a happy medium, but the barriers of entry that you have to go through and then deal with the peer group at each level. So when you want to enter business, it's easy. Bro, you can go online right now. We can start an LLC while I'm talking. You know what I mean?
I'll do it. I'm getting on my phone right now. We're starting a new one.
Right?
It's called Chitty Chat. We do podcasts 24/7.
24/7. We never sleep.
Yeah.
Almost. But so that one's super easy, right? But then if you want to move into like a competitive industry, or you want to move into a commercial spot, now you have some level of investment where you have to play against bigger hitters who are paying attention, right? And then obviously it continues to get to a higher level until you hit either failure or the plateau stage is what I would call it, where people go, oh, well, I make enough to be comfortable, and most people cap out. That's why the 1% are the 1%. So.
Yeah, and that's like, this is such like a touchy topic for me. Maybe it shouldn't be, but if you're like us, if you're hyper competitive, and granted, you don't have to be like this. This is just our viewpoint. But if you're a hyper-competitive person, like Greg was a professional right out of high school, or even maybe right at the end of high school, you became a professional at something, which is amazing, right? Myself, I was never at a professional level, but I was hyper-competitive, and as it pertained to fitness, I was by far overall, I wouldn't say like athlete, but overall, I guess, fitness, like, if you were to say like strength, endurance, like running, things like that, I was number one in my school, hands down, right? So there's this idea of like competing, and this is where it's a touchy subject for me, because you have this new age, like, don't compete against others, compete against yourself.
Kick rocks.
Right? And I'm like, but it's partially true, but it depends on how you frame it. And I think this is the important part of a lot of things, right? You need to compete against others. I think that's fundamental, the competitiveness, that drive, right? But like you said, like, really you are competing against yourself every day, right? It's your goal for you, your business every day. I want to try to get another client in, maybe get another session, whatever, achieve this one portion of my business today, you're not competing against anybody else to do that, right?
Right.
But I think that's where it gets skewed, is this new age versus old age, where it's like they take that and they say, oh, compete against yourself. It doesn't. I see this a lot in, I don't know if you do, but I see it a lot with the growth of CrossFit.
I was literally going to relate it back to CrossFit.
CrossFit.
Fire away.
The growth of CrossFit, and then how because of the growth of CrossFit, you saw a huge boom in Olympic lifting and powerlifting. And that's where you saw it a lot. You had these people go into Olympic lifting, powerlifting to specialize better to be at CrossFit, especially people that were like novice in the activity or sport. And that's the quote I'd always see, like, I'm competing against myself, and today I worked out and I'm going to have a donut.
Okay,
yeah.
So all right, you set me up. So I was going to relate it back to CrossFit, right? But the whole compete against yourself. Listen, one of my like kind of pet peeve phrases is when someone, especially someone older than me, in a topic that I'm knowledgeable about, goes, well, Greg, I've been doing this for 30 years. I always want to be like, listen, bro, I know a lot of people do a lot of shit for a lot of years that still suck at it. Yeah. Just because you've been doing it for 30 years doesn't mean you're good. And most people aren't. 30-year-olds that you're like, man, how do you even cross the street as an adult? You know what I mean? Like, they've been doing life for 30 years.
Across the street.
and they still suck at life.
Right.
You know, like that shit happens.
You see that a lot when you're driving, right?
Totally.
You're like, how the fuck did you get a license? Like merging is not that hard. Like, these are simple rules, man.
Simple rules that you think everyone would follow. But if you're in this, and this is why it's new age, because I think, and I'll just put it out there, I think new age stuff is super soft.
Sure.
Super soft. So if it's like compete against myself, well, if my bar is an inch off the ground for me competing with myself, I'm like, oh, I got a client.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll try to keep them for a month. Like, my bar sucks. You should be competing against me, who brought in 60 hours in the first month. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying I'm super successful, but if your bar's an inch off the ground with one client, I'm gonna pummel you. And my whole like being tells me to pummel you and take your one client.
Right.
So yeah, compete against yourself all you want. I'm gonna crush you. So you have to compete against other people, especially in business.
Yeah, man, it's so tough, right? Because I don't know. It's. I'm in the middle. I'm in the middle because I agree with you 100%. Like you know me. I'm competitive.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna compete against people who don't even know I'm competing against them.
Yeah.
And it's one of the reasons that I achieve success, right? But like you said, like, we're in the middle. I'm in a position where I'm like, ultimately, day in, day out, I'm not as a person who's in real estate and as a person who does home loans, both. I'm not around a lot of people, right? Like, and you were in that field for a while. Your family's in that field, and so and it's like, I spend most days by myself, and really all I have to compete with is like maybe with people I see on YouTube and Instagram. And even then, who knows how truthful they're being on that, right? And so you can look up stuff. Like this is where, for myself, I'm trying to find a way to be competitive in this field, right? Ethically. And I should note that.
Yeah.
Ethically. And we'll get into that a whole nother time. But essentially, I'm looking at, well, does the national or state associations, do they put out like top 100 realtors, top 100 mortgage companies like that? And are they doing it by unit? Or are they doing it by like how much they did? Like, how does that vary? Like, in California, the average, or in at least Sacramento, the average house is about $400,000. Well, it's much different if you're in a different state where you're doing a house is $200,000, right? So every day I'm like, okay, well, I'm competing against myself, but it's not enough for me. I don't know if you feel that. Like, I'm like,
So I think I have an answer for it, right?
Okay.
So I actually ran into this situation. Every group, every friends group, every whoever, right? You have the fitness guy.
Sure.
Right? Okay. I'm that guy in my group.
Greg Seawers?
Yeah, that's been me my whole life.
Every group.
So every time that we walk up to something athletic, people are like, bet Greg could do it, right?
No.
And sometimes in my own head, I'm like, shit, I don't know if I can do that. You know what I mean? Obviously, I put on my straight face. I'm like, got it.
I got it.
But I came to terms with like, man, I kind of needed to not challenge myself, but I needed to reassure myself that I was what everyone else was telling me I was. That's
that's interesting.
Right? So it's, yes, I'm competing with myself. Yes, I have to be better than I was yesterday.
No.
But almost to just reassure myself that I am doing what everyone thinks I'm doing.
Sure.
Right? So that's why I ran a marathon.
First off, I didn't know you ran a marathon.
I ran a marathon. So here's how it went. I went to a half marathon with my sisters in Disney World, and we got there, and I'm like 13 miles, cakewalk. I'm drinking beers the night before. I'm
Jesus
chilling.
Christ.
Never trained for it. Well, it was the first time in like a decade that it got canceled because of weather.
Oh, wow.
And in the meantime, while we're walking around drinking around the world at Epcot, I'm seeing all these people who lined up to run the marathon. I'm like, they're running marathons? Like, I kind of feel like an idiot for me not running the marathon.
Yeah.
So we went back the next year and I was like, hey, I'm signing up for the marathon. And then I basically did this. I went, Google, what's a good time on a marathon for a male? And it said sub 4 hours.
Yeah.
So there I was, sub 4 hours, dude.
You didn't train for it.
The most I ran was 17 miles in training. And
But you're saying like one day you went and did 17 miles, or you did like a progressive 2-month program.
so my program was like a couple of 2-milers where I just focused on my foot planting on the ground correctly.
Form.
I did my regular circuits. I challenged my cardio and my workouts. I ran 2 10-milers, 1:15, and 1:17. And then I went and ran the marathon.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, dude. Well, I had travel. Like I was traveling for paintball. I was in Australia for a week. Like all this other
But
stuff.
even well, okay, let me tell you. So my mentor, I don't know if I ever told you about my mentor, John, did I?
Slightly.
Yeah, so he worked in the group home when I lived there, and he's really the reason like I went the path that I went. But he's super competitive. He's like us, right?
You don't say.
Yeah, he's super competitive, and he wanted to run a marathon, and one day he just ran it.
Wow.
He didn't train or anything. He woke up, he said, I'm going to run a marathon today. And he ran a marathon, and he ended up like running from like Modesto or whatever all the way to where he worked. And then he just called his dad to pick him up after he was done, right? Didn't do a circle. He's like, I'm going to run. And I was like, he's like, yeah, I wanted to know if I could do it. And I did it. And he's not a runner. He's like, he just did it. So those type of things, no way I could do it. The most I ever ran was like 6 miles.
Sure, but so now just take what he did, take my story, right, and apply it to yours. So maybe you don't have someone to compete against directly.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't have any really like achievable marker that's listed for your industry.
Right.
But what you do have, or what you will have as you spend more time in the industry, is friends like me. I'm like, dude, you must be crushing it. You're working all the time. Bro, it's got to be awesome. Mortgage is bumping right now.
True.
And then in your head, you're going to go, am I crushing it? What am I crushing?
That's a good reason. That's a good point, actually.
You see what I mean? Now it's gonna hit you in your industry, and you're gonna say the same thing, and then you're gonna find a marker that says, dude, me crushing it is whatever, however many loans a month. There you go.
Yeah.
Now you have your goal.
Yeah, that makes sense. Maybe part of it is recognizing that, right? I think maybe that's where you've evolved a little bit in being in the business world, is recognizing, and maybe just growing up, right?
Truly.
I think the only thing, like for me, I was never, I couldn't run a lot. I was a sprinter, right? I can remember getting put when I was in 8th grade, getting put on the 4x4, and I think they just did it because they were like, we need somebody to do it, right? I didn't look like I was fast. But I did it. We were in like 6th place or something. I don't remember. And I sprinted the shit out of that thing. And I got us back into like 2nd. And I threw up instantly after that because I never really did it. And the coach came over and he was like dumbfounded.
Yeah.
Dumbfounded. He's like, what was that? Like, and I was just like, I just thought I had to sprint.
You told me to run, so I run.
Yeah, it was like Forrest Gump, dude. It's like, I just ran, dude. And it was weird, but like sprinting was always my thing, right? But the point being is, I diverge. You recognize that because you have these expectations that people put on you, right? And you're like, well, am I actually that person, right?
Yeah.
It's funny. My master thesis is on social comparison, which is what this is, right? It's finding a way to normalize who we are and how we fit into society based off of either others or a comparison of others, right?
Sure.
Or their expectations. And so it's interesting because my thing was I was fast. Like my fastest mile was 4:59, 4:58.
It's good.
And I was 200 pounds, right? It was deadlifting 500 pounds, squatting 500 pounds. Like I think I told you this, the 225 challenge I did.
Yeah.
I squatted 50 times 225.
That sounds terrible.
So I was really sore for a couple of days. The only nice part was my girlfriend at the time was massage my legs with lotion. That was the only nice thing about it. But
doesn't sound worth it.
yeah, no. But the only thing I've ever in that same realm as you is like Mac can lift that.
Yeah.
Like Mac's the big guy. Like that thing's heavy. Have Mac bring it into the office. Have Mac because
Totally.
that's the only thing I've ever got. Not like oh yeah, Mac would be like a good competitor. Like Mac's the athlete guy. I was the strong guy.
Yeah.
Right.
So there's you hit me on 2 points, right? So one is you're like, oh well, maybe you grew into that. Maybe you find that, right? But one thing I have noticed that I've evolved around by listening to podcasts and by paying attention to the more successful people or people that I deem successful that are around me, it's just like in fitness. Yeah, maybe you don't lose a pound right away, but you have more energy. You just have to pay attention. Like oh yeah, I didn't eat my afternoon coffee, right? So there are these little tweaks that you feel along the way if you're looking for them. Right. But if you're not looking for them, you're just spinning your wheels like a hamster, right? And then to the point that you were just making is a lot of that is identity change. So for me, I'm getting ready to hang up my cleats in paintball. Like this is my last season, 100%. I've been doing it for a long time. Time to focus on family and business.
Right.
And to have that identity change of, well, I'm not the strong guy in this group, or I'm not the pro athlete anymore. I'm just some basic bitch gym guy, you know what I mean, on Riverside Road, waiting to achieve something that I see equivalent, right? But in getting into business and in going through business, especially now, like in that entry level, or what I would consider entry level, is kind of being at the bottom of the totem pole again. You know what I mean? It's like being a freshman all over again.
Right. Yeah, it's hard. And it's been a long time since we've caught up, like life-wise, right? So you guys are going to probably hear, like, I'm going to be like, I didn't know he ran a marathon, right? If you guys don't know this, which you probably don't, Greg and I went to college together. And we became friends because the girl that I was dating at the time was friends with Greg.
Yep.
And then we just always had a lot of fun together. That's what it was. Sometimes we work out together. Sometimes we drink a lot. And we just like hang out. And so, it's so interesting, Pat. So you guys are probably, I'm going to be like, really? That happened? He's going to be like, really? That happened? And it's because we're friends, but with like a gap, right? Like, we both went separate ways. We both kind of we went separate ways and we reconnected by the grace of Sacramento business. And so so you guys are going to hear like these stories almost in like real time, the same time I'm hearing them.
Yeah.
That's why there's such shock in my voice. I'm like, wait, you just ran a marathon? Not that it's like that far from your character.
Sure.
That's the thing. It's like if you're like someone said, hey, Greg ran a marathon, he didn't really train for it, I'd be like, yeah, that's about right, right? But back to the quote, right? This idea of not judging yourself too harshly and getting that out of your head, right? Let's focus on that for a little bit because, and I don't want to get too deep into like entrepreneurial mental health necessarily.
Sure.
But part of this discussion and these discussions that are going to happen is partially on that, right? It is difficult, especially, and I have some stuff later, but this idea of a lot of business people start on their own. They do it themselves, right? Like you, for instance, don't have a business partner right now.
Yeah.
It's hard, right? Like my experience as going into business is with the business partner, and kind of really because my business partner with Eco was in my fraternity. We had the network of my fraternity. So we often had people coming out to check out what we're doing, offering to help, things like that. And so I want to talk on that a little bit about this idea of doing business on your own, being out of your head, right? And not being so judgmental on yourself because it can be a really difficult thing to navigate, I think.
Sure. Man, I can jump on that right away. So in building my gym, I call it a training studio, right? It's 1,500 square feet. It's put together. It looks mostly professional, I think. It's
really nice, yeah.
Yeah, but you talk about wanting perfectionism when you build something. Like, bro, I don't know how to, lay all that flooring and make everything perfectly straight or cut these edges with a hand knife, but to just get down on your knee and do it by hand and be happy enough with what you did when other people like you come in, you're like, man, this looks really good. And I'm like, oh, that edge is crooked.
Yeah,
you know
I can see the gap in that mat over there.
Oh, my God, that thing drives me nuts.
Yeah, check out that gap over there.
Check out that gap in the mat.
You idiot, you don't know what you're talking about.
Right? But like you say, not judging yourself too harshly because you're in the barrier of entry, right? If I was my client, right, and I was jumping on private jets, you might look at the floor and be like, bro, how come this isn't fixed? You know?
That's a good point. Perspective is important.
But people are proud of me because the last time they saw me is I was in the garage with half the equipment. Now I'm in a studio, right? And now I'm moving into a bigger facility and everyone's like, holy shit, really?
Yeah.
Like, give me a mic to drop. But in the meantime, like, obviously I want this next place to be a level up. I want it to look more professional, more put together, you know? But in the meantime, it's just grit and bear it. Like, if it works, I believe in MVPs, minimum viable product.
Sure.
If you always wait for it to be perfect, you'll be waiting forever.
Right, and we had that problem because we started kind of like in January, right? And then we got the building in, I want to say like a May, and then we started building it. My business partner at the time was in the military, and he had like super random, like I called away. He's like, hey, I need you to drive to Sacramento, sign for the building, and get the keys. Right? And I was like,
no big deal.
I was like, dude, like, are you sure? You want me to like put my name on the building, like whatever? And he's like, yeah, go do it. So I go up there, I do it, right? We get the keys in like May or June, and we don't open until December.
Oof.
Long time.
Yeah.
Now, granted, our facility was a little bit bigger, and you know, we had 2 stories and a lot of things we were trying to figure out. But like, eventually, we got to a point where I'm like, dude, it's good enough. Like, we got to get people in the door. We got to get the business moving. And we continued to like work on things. I think things are still progressing there, but we continued to build things for like at least another 6 months, if not a year, like adding things, subtracting things, going and picking up new equipment or whatever it is and trying to design program around that.
Sure.
But it can be really, I guess demotivating is really the best word, because it's like you look at it and you're like, oh, could this be better? And then you get into the trouble of like buying, where you're like, if I buy this thing, it'll make a difference.
Oh, that's a booby trap for sure.
Yeah.
So, yo, man, that's such a booby trap. I'm running into this now because I just bought all the equipment for my bigger facility, right? Mm-hmm. And of course, everyone and their brother's like, bro, are you gonna get one of these? Yeah. Hey, how about you get one of these? And I'm like, kick rocks, man. Get one of these. That's $6,000.
Yeah.
You know, like that's not a small investment.
Yeah, the fitness stuff is a lot. But I do. It's called gear chasing, is what it's called. And because I'm into long range shooting, you get this. They talk about this a lot, gear chasing, buying the best equipment because it's gonna make you a better shooter. When in actuality, the fundamentals is really a difference. Like you could buy a $3,000 rifle and someone could buy a $10,000 rifle, and if your fundamentals are better, you're gonna outshoot them, right?
True.
And you see the same thing in business development. For me, my main perspective is from marketing, right? Marketing, PR, sales, org development, and I get caught in this sometimes too. I mean, look at the shit that I have here, right? Yeah. We probably could have did this with an iPhone. Yeah. Maybe probably could have got like a 360 mic to put into the iPhone and did it. So there's, you're like, well, if I just get this piece of equipment and this piece of equipment, like I'll be better, right? Or like if I just fix this gap in the mat, but then you're like, I don't have the money, or I don't have the time, or it's like, should I really be spending this money?
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, it's not good enough. You feel bad about yourself and you feel bad about your business. And I don't know if this happened to you. It hasn't really happened to me because I'm not really an excuse kind of person. I'm just like I put it to the back of my head and work, and I think eventually it'll work itself. But I think for a lot of people, it becomes an excuse as a way to let themselves fail.
Dude, 100% people, I hear clients do it all the time. They come up with the craziest reasons as to why something can't happen. It's like, well, you just didn't want to come. Yeah. And you came up with a reason as to not to come, right?
If I was your client and I was like, hey, I can't come because my power's out and my fence is down.
Yeah.
Both of my fences are down and I have to go get blood work this morning. Wouldn't you think that was a lie?
Yeah,
like, this fucking idiot.
Well, first of all, I'd be like, well, you're going to pick up the fence right now? You know what I mean? Like, are you going to pick it up right now?
You can still come work out. Actually, make it part of your workout. Just video me in.
Totally. But the point of what I was going to say is, again, we're talking barrier of entry. That's kind of where we're at in business, or at least what we're talking about. And it's the gaps in the mats, that bother me. It's, not a lack of equipment, but maybe not all the highest end equipment, right? That actually tends to help build your community, right? So I found that when I do videos for my business, if I say everything perfectly, it doesn't get as many views or as many likes than if I stutter slightly.
Sure.
So there's a level of perfectionism that is expected of a very well established business or person. But when you're entering or when you're still, at the comfort level or below, you are almost more accepted if you do have a few little things that are perfect.
Well, yeah, there's actually, so in the marketing world over the last, maybe longer, but I'm going to say at least 5 years, there's been this shift into what you call authentic content
Oh,
development.
God, don't say that word.
But this might, I think not everybody's authentic, but the idea essentially is people want to see content that is not necessarily professionally done, right? They like if you come in there and you got a $30,000 red camera and you have all this stuff and it looks crisp and everything, they're gonna like people like it because it's like it's a matter of perspective, right? Because the only thing we've seen for a long time is movies from the theater, television, and things like that. And so you see those high-end things and you think that's what things should look like. And then as the growth of social networking sites came, you were able to see like things that weren't done on at that caliber, and it feels more authentic.
Yeah.
Right? It feels more like this is a real person, this is a real business, this is something that I can like create to. Now I think there's a lot of people doing like fake authentic stuff.
Bro, if one more guy walks with his cell phone in selfie mode past a car that's not his, I'm going to lose it. Like,
I'm about to walk past my Nissan Rogue and be like, "What's up? You can be successful like me, Nissan Rogue, baby."
Hashtag Nissan.
Hashtag Nissan. Feel free to sponsor us, Nissan. We're here.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you drive?
I drive an F-150.
F-150. Did I tell you I used to have an F-150?
No.
We were probably F-150 brothers for a little while.
Yeah.
Now, Ford, if you want to give me a new F-150 and pay for the additional registration tax for having a heavy truck,
Yeah.
which was bullshit, okay? I would appreciate that.
Yeah.
Nissan, Ford, hit us up. All right, it's about to be the #1 podcast in all of the greater Americas. But yeah, man, it's so crazy, like the way things shift. And I think this is why this podcast is like gonna touch a lot of people, is because business shifts.
Yeah.
And the biggest problem is this entry thing you're talking about, right? You're like, how do I even get started? And that's what the podcast is today. Like, we're in this room. Once I listen to it, we'll see there might be a little bit of static. There might be some echo because there's definitely no soundboards or anything in here.
Yes.
Like, we're in just a room, and
Yeah.
who knows? Like, I can kind of hear it, but we'll see, right?
Right.
But it's just like, you got to get started. Just got to start.
Yeah, dude, you see that? You know what it was too, and I talk to people about this. So, getting started in, I mean, fitness is what I talk about all day, but like fitness, business, whatever, you got to find something that matters to you, and put it there, right? So mine was money. When I was strapped for cash, when I first like made my LLC, you pay the California $800 tax and you pay for the licensing forms. I was like, bro, I don't have that money. So I went and spent it. I spent the money I didn't really have. And I'm like, well, now I have to make it work just to get my money back, let alone to actually do what I want to do.
Right.
So I purposefully put my back against the wall.
No. And sometimes you have to do that, right? Like I did that same thing. Granted, I was in a bit of a different situation when I got into real estate and marketing because I had been working full-time, salaried, plus, I mean, I didn't make any money from the gym, but...
Working that 9 to 5?
Yeah, working that, more like working that 5 to 10 or something, yeah. But I did that same thing. I was like, well, and granted, I think actually I did because I'm about to do my taxes. It cost me roughly $10,000 to $14,000 my first year of real estate, and I only made $5,000.
Sure.
So I've spent a lot more. Now, if you could pay for a class or something, yeah, I'll lose it. I'll lose $10,000. That's fine. I mean, granted, I'm gonna get taxes back, things like that. But it's the best money I've spent to learn an industry, right? I mean, it really is. But sometimes you have to put yourself in that position, right? And luckily, I think support systems are really important. I have a really supporting wife. I have a supportive family, and I have experience in education that allows me to feel comfortable to put myself in that position. But I don't think all of our listeners will, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's like sometimes what are you going to do, right? Are you, if you want to jump in this, and granted, I'm not saying you have to, not everybody can be an entrepreneur, nor should everybody try to be one, right?
Sure.
The world wouldn't work if we didn't do that. We need people to work the lines. We need people to be supervisors and managers.
Yeah.
whatever it is, right? And you can have a great life that way. But if you choose to go this route, sometimes you just got to lay your cards down and say, I'm playing.
Yeah, 100%. And if that's what you want to do, there's two ways to look at it. You have a supportive wife, family, whatever, right? And they're like, rah, rah, Mac, go do what you do, man, right? And if you don't, sweet. There's a little fire to go bury the people who told you no. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
so
that's
if
a
you
good
want to
point.
do it, pick your poison. I don't care if it's support or if it's hate. Go make it happen.
Sure, absolutely. All right, well, we're going to wind down this section. Let's do some key takeaways for our listeners. Go.
Key takeaways. Stop giving a shit in every manner. Stop caring what your parents think. Stop caring what your friends think. Start doing what you want to do without fear of failure or people. Period. The end.
Yeah, and then I would say do give a shit
Ooh,
about what you're doing,
there you go.
right? Don't give a shit about what other people, and even yourself when self-doubt, but give a shit so much that you're willing to work as hard as it takes. And I think there's this could be just like being naive, but there's this idea now of like work really hard. I think Elon Musk is really pushing this work like 4 times as hard as everybody, right? And then my broker, who's been in the business for 20 years, is like, dude, I don't want to work that hard. I want to make that money and only have to work 4 hours.
That's real estate life,
Yeah,
dude.
there's a balance there, right? But that's the thing too. You don't want to do this
Grind.
every day grind, right? Like eventually the goal is to get to a position where you're not working, you're managing, right? You're running a business. So, but I would say care so much about what you're doing that you're willing to dedicate the time, the resources, and everything you have to make it successful.
I love it.
All right. We're gonna jump into Reddit threads. You ready for this?
I'm ready.
You're excited. All right, guys. Our first segment, well, I guess our second segment, but our first real segment from what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at some Reddit advice. You guys are out there. You're looking for information. You're looking on YouTube. You're looking on Instagram. And undoubtedly, if you are under the age of 40, most likely, you're looking at Reddit. So I'm gonna read a couple of things here about entrepreneurship and things like that, and we're gonna talk about them.
Hit me.
Yeah, you're
What do you
excited.
got?
I can
I am.
tell you're excited. All right. Flailing around, blindly trying this and that, praying and hoping for some traction. That's how I started my first business as a solo entrepreneur. That's how many of us do it. If you'd like to save yourself years of trial and error, do your research carefully and make sure you don't start a business or startup without having sufficient amount of knowledge.
Oh, I actually don't like it.
Yeah,
I don't like it. So I mean, they try to sell it with the flailing thing, right? But if in fitness I wasn't going to start a gym without sufficient knowledge, bro, I'd never start. There's so much information out there with corrective exercise and yoga and CrossFit and how to run a business, and what I do in fitness versus how to run a business are two giantly different entities. So if you wait for the knowledge, bro, you're going to be doing taxes the rest of your life. Like,
yeah, well, that's the hard part too, right? Is like business on your own versus business with partners, right? Or let's say a group or a family. Like I do think a lot of people start businesses with like the support of their family, right? Like I have my wife's best friend's cousins. Yeah, I know it's wordy.
dog walkers.
Yeah. They have a business and their whole family is essentially involved, right? Then I have other friends, i.e. you, right? And other people, they start business on their own, right? And so I do think if you go that route and you can't give stuff out to other people, then you would never get started if you're trying to start, because business, this is the thing that a lot of people don't understand. Like if you want to create a job for yourself, that's fine. Like I want to be a videographer and I'm going to contract out my work. That's like one thing, right? It's very kind of easy, manageable type of thing. But if you want to have employees, you want to build a business, whatever, like that's a whole nother thing. Taxes, liabilities, like you just had an incident at your gym.
Yeah.
That's very scary. That has to have to do with like postage on your wall, like all these things, right? And so you would never get started. Like the fitness, and I've found this for myself, because we're so ingrained in the fitness community, is the easiest part of the business.
Absolutely.
You're
Absolutely.
I can do it. The business part's there, right?
Yeah, I mean, man, such a booby trap. You know how my business started? I worked my ass off at this corporate gym that I was working at. I was barely making it through without 1,000 milligrams of caffeine, and I went home with a paycheck that barely got me by.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait a minute. I just charged all these people all this money, and then I'm scraping by after breaking my back, and I didn't even get like a bonus for helping the company.
Yeah.
Bro, I'm out. I'm going to go do my own thing. There's no way I can't take 5 of the 50 people that I train and go do it.
Well,
so I did.
So you see this a lot in the fitness industry too, because typically what you'll see is the corporate office, because they pay you like, sometimes they typically pay you like a salary commission, right? Or hourly commission, that they'll take 60 to 80% of the money that comes from the client, because they're going to pay you this hourly rate, and then they're going to give you a small portion, right? And like, we realized that when we were building the gym, we're like, dude, this is ridiculous. Like, we could give the trainers 70 to 80% of what they're making, and we'll still make a ton of money.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm right there with you on that. Like, that's crazy.
And that's how business starts. You just do it, and then you figure out the problems as you go.
All right. You ready for another one?
Hit me.
All right. If you can't directly count the amount of money you will make from each individual customer, what it will cost to get that customer, and how long the customer will stay with you for, then you don't know if you have a business yet.
Still no. I don't think that's right. So I understand. They're trying to say, don't spend $10,000 on a marketing ad that's going to bring you one person for $100. I get what they're trying to say. But it's not a very quality universal statement, because I don't it depends on the client. I think they're talking about purchasing a product.
Sure.
Right? So if I spend $10,000 on an ad and I sell 10 $2 energy drinks, I'm in trouble, right? But I can spend a couple grand getting one client, because if they sign up 3 times for my packages, then I've paid myself, right? So how can you estimate? Let me rephrase this. I'm digging in because I don't like the quote, but my issue is they're stamping someone as a singular purchase. The best thing you can do in business is have repeat business.
Yeah.
Because they'll tell their friends, they'll keep coming back. It's something you can count on. I want a lifetime client, not a, hey, I'm coming in once a week, every other month client.
Right.
So how can I possibly estimate that?
Yeah, and that, especially, I think, obviously we're talking from a place of like, Greg has a brick and mortar. He has a client-based business. He's not selling products necessarily. And my business, mortgage and home loans and real estate, is client-based as well, right? And the trick to these sort of businesses is that, and in my opinion, ethically, the best way to do it is to nurture the relationships you have.
Right.
That's the best thing. I think a lot of people, they're like, well, I'm going to spend money on ads and marketing and things like that. I'm just going to get as many people through the door. But I think that if you give your energy and time to that individual client, and not to say you don't have to do the other things, but nurturing those people, repeat business is really the thing, right? That person might end up buying 3 houses with you. And I see this a lot because of our mortgage side as well. Like, we sell one person their house, then they buy 6 investment properties with us, and they did their loans through us, and now they're refining all of their loans through us. Right. That's a lot of business from one person, because we taught them. We treated them fairly, and we treated them not like you're here to make me money, but like I'm here to help you and give you a service, right?
Exactly. So everyone gets treated the same, with the potential of having a lifetime client.
Yeah. So I don't think that's a great way to go. We'll go into that either. All right. One more. Last one.
Come on, Reddit. Give me something good.
You never see the full picture until you are well into the new business. This has been the case for everything I have done, and especially my e-commerce journey. Consistently unforeseen issues and opportunities that you had no idea existed.
Finally. I can buy into that.
That's a good one? All right.
That's a good one. He said e-commerce, and I was like, I might not like this person. And then, just because that's like the word of the year. But I actually like that. You're constantly having to pivot within your business, change the structure within your business, but focusing on the same thing. And as you grow, the goals get bigger and continue to change. I like it.
No, I think that's good too. Just like you said, right? This idea of pivoting and, oh man, your business, I'm sorry to say this, guys, might not be what you want it to be. It might not be the idea. You have to be kind of flexible on this. I'm not saying change everything, but I'm saying understand that the dream that you had, that this is a lot like dating, I think.
Go ahead, lay it out.
I'm gonna lay it on you, because you as you grow up, you see whatever you're around these certain people, you see this sort of media. You're like, this is what I want my ideal person to look like. This is what I want my ideal person to be like, right? But then you date people, and you realize, well, there's other components that I like, right? There's other things I didn't really realize, and it's the same thing in business, where you think you going into it like, this is what it is, this is what I want, but then you do a portion of the business. Actually, I really like this part of the business. I really like this part of the business. This part of the business doesn't work. I didn't realize it wasn't going to work, and it isn't important to me. And you switch it. Do you see how that worked together there, Greg?
Yeah, you brought it home.
Yeah, I brought it home. It might have been a little loose, but that's how I see the world, right?
Sure.
It's like we go in, because business is a lot like having a relationship. I mean, I don't know if you feel like that, but I do. Like, you give it so much time, you give it so much love, you give it so much energy, right?
And every now and then it hits you with the backhand.
Yeah, it does, and it says, "Hey, I don't like it that way. Pull it away. All right, pull it away." But no, realistically, I mean, that's how I see it. Like, if you're able and lucky enough to get that deep into creating a business, that's what it feels like. And I think that's why people are so emotional sometimes in business, because it's like, I don't want to do this because it's my baby, right?
Yeah,
that's really hard. But I think, to your point, you have to be flexible with this. If your goal is to have a successful business, that's different. If your goal is to be like, have one niche thing, it's going to be a lot harder to do, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Absolutely. And I think you're seeing that now, right? You and I have been talking for a couple of months now about, like, how do we pivot in the fitness industry through COVID? We haven't even touched on COVID, but how do we pivot through COVID? How do we, like, in the general world, in general, right? Like, how do we make these pivot points to make the business more appeasing, successful, flow better, right? Organizationally and marketing wise.
Right. It seems to be ever changing, but
I don't know if it ever like actually hits, or I hope, and this is where, like, it's interesting. This is why we wanted to do this podcast, because we're within our first 5 years of business. Now, granted, both of us have extensive back experience, like in sales, customer relations, like marketing. Like, Greg had to sell himself as a professional athlete, right? He had to sell his business. I see him out there, like, slinging his jerseys, slinging his paintball guns, trying to make some money.
Hustling,
right?
baby, hustling.
Yeah, hustling. And my experience, like, I kind of went more like the traditional education route, and the more traditional, I mean, granted, you have a bachelor, but the master's, and, like, being in a traditional workplace environment. And I learned a lot from that, right? But we realized that we're not by any means experts at what we do. And or not what we do, but experts at, like, everything that we want to do. And we want to use this as an opportunity to work with you guys and others, and hopefully bring other people onto the podcast, as well as get your guys' suggestions, things like that, to grow ourselves and to grow with you. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, that's
absolutely.
The opportunity, is to grow together. And I think, and I hope, that this is what will distinguish this podcast from others, is that this isn't two guys who think that they're the greatest at everything trying to tell you guys, like, this is just our perspective, and we hope to get others' perspective on it. So if you guys have the opportunity, please email us at TheHardMoneyShow@gmail.com. We'll be looking at emails there. That's TheHardMoneyShow@gmail.com. Follow us on Instagram, TheHardMoneyShow. On Instagram, there's nothing on there yet, except for maybe one post of, like, my office, because we want to film this as well. But there's nothing on there, but we will be getting content on there in that goal. And Greg, I had a surprise for you. I don't know if you knew this, dude.
I want to mention, I love that there's an @Gmail account for this podcast, because that's just the epitome of an MVP. It's, you know what I mean? Like, @Gmail, everyone's like, oh, it's got to be @mybusinessname.com. Nah. Kick rocks, bro. Someone will email you.
At Gmail, just send it to us. Yeah. Well, that's the thing is like,
Never change.
You just got to get started, right?
gotta get started.
Just got to
Let's
get
go.
started. I mean, it's like, do I want to register the podcast as a business right now? I mean, maybe I should. I don't know. Maybe that's my fault. But I was just like, let's just get started. Let's put it up, right?
I like it.
But I have a surprise for you.
Okay. What do you got?
I wanted to tell you about our very, very lucrative sponsorship that we got for this podcast.
What's our sponsor?
Ah, you didn't know we had a
didn't
sponsor,
know.
did you? 2 sponsors, actually.
2?
Yeah, we want to, guys, this podcast would not be possible without our sponsors. We want to thank Mac and Greg's Wallets for sponsoring this podcast, because without those wallets, this would not be possible.
The only text I got from you to start this podcast was bring the energy drinks.
All right, well, see, this is what I'm saying. Who paid for these? Where did these energy drinks come from? From Greg's wallet. Thank you so much, Greg and Mac's wallet, for getting this podcast started. But realistically, we do want to take a few seconds here. Greg, give us a shout out about MAP. I'm going to give you a shout out about my stuff. And we're going to be done, guys.
Cool. MAP Training is a fully integrated personal training facility. We are located in Roseville, California, but we also host a number of online programs. Everything's found at trainwithmap.com or trainwithmap on every single social platform you can think of.
Guys, if you are trying to get into shape, like, check this out, especially the online portion. If you're like worried about going to the gym, or if right now you don't have the ability or whatever, check out the online portion. I'm in both of them. I've been using them, and the app is really cool. It sends reminders. He has programs and videos that he sends me. Like, it's actually a really, really cool app. Definitely check it out. If you do have the opportunity, you're in the Roseville area, or willing to drive, come to the gym, check it out, but also get excited. Tell us a little bit. We're running out here, but tell us a little bit. You have a new facility coming. You have to mention it.
The new facility. I'm in 1,500 square feet right now. I'm literally moving across the street to 3,500 square feet. We have some amazing equipment on the way, including like the ergonomic treadmills that are self-propelled, a huge 20-foot rig. We're gonna have 1,300 square feet of turf that's gonna accept cleats. So if you're an athlete and you're looking to train, like, we're gonna have the jam. I've got 2 pro athletes coming in. Like, it's gonna be huge.
Yeah, I'm excited about it, guys. I'm gonna be out there. I'm gonna be filming it. Be working with Greg's. Definitely check it out. Check out the website. We're gonna be doing. All right, now we can talk about me, the most important part. Right?
Come on, lay it
Enough
on.
about you. More about Mac. All right.
It's a follow-up, but make it happen.
Yeah. Okay. So guys, like I said, Mac's Wallet bringing us money. Orbit Home Loans and Orbit Realty. We're located in the greater Sacramento area, located in Midtown specifically, but we do business all through California, specifically the Bay Area up to the Tahoe area, greater Sacramento, Central Valley. We're all over. I'm very excited to be in this business, in this area, helping people. And the key thing for me and my growth is I'm community driven. And so my goal this year is to make enough to donate $10,000 to local nonprofits, right? Organizations. That's like, for a long time, I used to call them business, and people who were in nonprofit would get mad at the organizations.
Say what you want,
Yeah,
dude. You
whatever.
get paid and you give money away. It's cool.
But that's what I want to do, guys. So if you know somebody that's looking to sell, buy, or needs a home loan, a refi, whatever it is, please send them my way. It will help fund this podcast, help give back to our local communities. We're very excited. Thank you guys so much for being on today. We're hoping to continue to keep this grow. So if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, whatever it may be, send us an email, send us a DM. Thank you guys.
Thank you.